May 12, 2023, 3:17 p.m., Houston. Pregnant bride Kendra Drew collapsed during her bridal shower, blood seeping through her white dress. As guests screamed for help, the knife in her husband Mark's hand told the horrifying truth: the man who vowed to protect her had become her killer. How does love transform into such deadly rage? What drives someone to destroy everything they claim to cherish? If you haven't joined the Guilty Whispers community yet, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to become part of our growing family of true crime enthusiasts. Share your location in the comments below. We love seeing how our stories connect people across the world. The first responders arrived at the Blessed Community Church Fellowship Hall within minutes of the 911 call. Paramedics rushed through the scattered pink and white decorations, navigating past shocked guests frozen in horror. What should have been a joyous celebration of both marriage and motherhood had become a crime scene. Kendra Drew, 7 months pregnant, lay on the polished hardwood floor, her white maternity dress now stained crimson. The medical team worked frantically to stabilize her, their movements urgent but measured. Female, 28, multiple stab wounds to the abdomen, significant blood loss, Dr. Candace Brown, the lead paramedic, reported into her radio. Patient is approximately 7 months pregnant. Blood pressure dropping. We need an immediate transport. Outside the fellowship hall, Detective Anthony Bryant supervised as officers secured the perimeter. Mark Grant sat in the back of a police cruiser, his hands cuffed behind him, the front of his blue button-down shirt splattered with his wife's blood. Unlike many suspects in the immediate aftermath of violence, he wasn't ranting or crying. His expression remained unnervingly calm, almost vacant, as though his mind had disconnected from the horror his hands had just inflicted. He didn't even try to run, one officer noted. When we arrived, 4 men had him pinned to the ground, but once we cuffed him, he just went completely compliant. Keeps mumbling something about how she didn't listen. Inside, Detective Bryant began the grim process of interviewing witnesses. The fellowship hall that hours earlier had been filled with laughter now echoed with sobs and shocked whispers. Janelle Bourne, Kendra's closest friend, could barely form words through her tears. Everything was perfect, she managed. We were celebrating. The gender reveal had just happened, they were having a girl. Kendra was glowing. Then she mentioned the name they'd chosen, and Mark just changed. It happened so fast. 1 minute he was smiling, the next he had a knife. As Detective Bryant continued his interviews, a uniformed officer approached with a phone displaying a text thread. "Sir, I think you should see this. It's from the victim's phone." The messages revealed a conversation between Kendra and Janelle just the previous evening. "I know he doesn't like the name," Kendra had written. "But I'm hoping when I announce it tomorrow, he'll see how beautiful it sounds. How perfect it is for our daughter." Janelle's response was concerning in hindsight. "Are you sure that's a good idea? You said he was really adamant about not using that name." Kendra's final message: "He'll come around when he sees how happy it makes me. I can't imagine calling her anything else. Luna is perfect." Detective Bryant handed the phone to a crime scene technician for processing, his expression grim. This wasn't just a spontaneous act of violence. There was history here, a build-up that had reached its breaking point in the most tragic way possible. As the investigation began to unfold, a portrait emerged of Kendra Drew, born in 1991 to Jaden and Michelle Drew, a loving middle-class couple from Houston's 3rd Ward. Childhood photos showed a smiling girl with bright eyes and an easy confidence. School records painted a picture of a student who excelled socially and academically. From childhood, Kendra had been known for her loyalty and dependability. Elementary school teachers described her as the peacemaker among her peers. When classmates fought over toys or classroom privileges, Kendra was often the one suggesting compromises or offering to share her own things. By high school, she had developed a reputation for trustworthiness that made her a confidant for friends facing difficulties. Kendra was the person you told your secrets to, her high school English teacher recalled during an interview. She never gossiped, never betrayed confidences. Her sense of loyalty was remarkable for someone so young. Her yearbook quote, "Loyalty is a two-way street," seemed to capture her fundamental philosophy. She believed deeply in the sanctity of trust, a value that would make her later betrayal all the more devastating. It was during junior year that Kendra met Coral Wilson. The two became inseparable almost immediately. Yearbook photos showed them with arms linked, heads thrown back in laughter. They joined the same clubs, volunteered at the same community events, and spent weekends at each other's houses. They shared clothes, secrets, and dreams about the future. Friends from that time described them as practically sisters. When they both attended the University of Houston, they rented an apartment together near campus, decorating it with thrift store finds and string lights. Their social media from those years showed two young women enjoying college life to the fullest, attending football games, joining the marketing club, celebrating birthdays with elaborate homemade cakes. Their friendship seemed unbreakable, until Sean Mayer entered the picture. Kendra met Sean during a summer marketing internship before her senior year. Working at a trendy downtown advertising agency, Kendra found herself partnered with Sean on a campaign for a local coffee shop. Tall and charismatic, with ambitions of starting his own agency, Sean had the kind of confidence that filled a room. Photos from company events showed him at the center of every group, one arm often casually draped around Kendra's shoulders. "She called me the night they met," Janelle told investigators. She said, "I just met someone who makes me feel like I can do anything." That was Sean's effect on her. Their connection was immediate and intense. Colleagues noticed how they gravitated toward each other in meetings, how conversations between them flowed effortlessly, how they finished each other's sentences when presenting ideas. By the end of the internship, they were officially dating. The relationship blossomed through senior year and into their post-graduation lives. Sean landed a job at a prestigious agency downtown, while Kendra secured a position with a smaller firm specializing in nonprofit marketing. They talked about someday combining their talents to create their own agency. Meanwhile, Coral had graduated with a degree in public relations and found work at a local TV station. The three remained close, forming what seemed like the perfect friendship triangle. Sean, Kendra, and Coral formed a comfortable trio, having dinner together twice weekly, celebrating milestones, supporting each other through job interviews and career setbacks. Instagram posts showed them at concerts, trying new restaurants, taking weekend trips to Galveston. Kendra's parents welcomed Sean into family gatherings. Friends assumed they were heading toward engagement. "They just made sense together," Coral had told a mutual friend. "I've never seen Kendra so happy." But there were signs, subtle at first, that something wasn't right. Sean's late nights at the office became more frequent. He began missing Sunday dinners with Kendra's family, a tradition they had maintained for months. Coral suddenly became unavailable on weekends, citing work commitments or family obligations. Text messages appeared on Kendra's phone that made her frown briefly before forcing a smile. Perhaps she ignored these warning signals, or perhaps she simply couldn't imagine the betrayal that was unfolding. It happened on a Thursday evening in 2018. Kendra had finished work early and decided to surprise Coral with takeout from their favorite Thai restaurant. She had a key to Coral's apartment. They still kept spare keys to each other's places even after moving apart. The sound that greeted her when she opened the door wasn't the television or music, but unmistakable noises from the bedroom. Confused, she called out Coral's name. The sudden silence was deafening. Then came frantic rustling. When the bedroom door opened, Sean stood there in boxers, his expression shifting from shock to resignation. Behind him, Coral sat on the bed clutching a sheet to her chest, tears already streaming down her face. "How long?" was all Kendra asked. 6 months, Sean answered after a painful silence. The confrontation that followed revealed the depth of the deception. Late-night, work meetings, that never happened. Girls' nights that were covers for rendezvous. The realization that the two people she trusted most had been lying to her face while betraying her behind her back shattered something fundamental in Kendra. They had been laughing at me, she later told Tiana. All those times we were together, and I never suspected. They must have thought I was so stupid. She walked out of that apartment and cut both Sean and Coral from her life completely. Blocked their numbers. Removed them from social media. Returned every gift Sean had ever given her to his apartment doorstep in a cardboard box. Asked mutual friends not to mention either name in her presence. The betrayal rippled through their social circle. Mutual friends were forced to choose sides. Some distanced themselves from all three, uncomfortable with the tension. Kendra faced not only heartbreak but public humiliation as well. According to those close to her, she didn't just lose a boyfriend and a best friend that day, she lost her ability to trust. After that, she built walls, her sister Tiana explained to investigators. She stopped believing people when they said they cared about her. She was always waiting for the other shoe to drop. She'd say things like, "If they could fool me for 6 months, anyone could fool me forever." The following months were a dark period for Kendra. She withdrew from social activities, took a leave of absence from her marketing job, and spent days barely leaving her apartment. Her mother Michelle began checking on her daily, concerned about her deteriorating mental state. Depression weighed heavily on her, made worse when doctors diagnosed her with severe anemia that left her constantly fatigued. It was during this time that Sean, in what friends described as a guilt-motivated gesture, gave her a Siamese cat. He left the kitten in a carrier outside her door with a note, "I know you'll never forgive me, but everyone deserves something that loves them unconditionally. She needs a home, and I thought of you." Kendra named the cat Luna and initially threatened to give it away, but the animal quickly became her emotional support through the darkest days. Photos from this period showed the elegant Siamese curled on Kendra's lap or perched on her shoulder, rarely more than a few feet from her human companion. "That cat saved her," Tiana said. When Kendra wouldn't get out of bed, Luna would paw at her face until she got up to feed her. When she cried, Luna would climb onto her chest and purr. It was like that cat knew exactly what Kendra needed. The bond between woman and cat grew stronger as Kendra's health issues worsened. Her anemia required monthly iron infusions at a local clinic. On days when she was too weak to cook for herself, Luna's need for care forced Kendra to at least open cans of cat food, which often led to making something simple for herself as well. When panic attacks struck in the middle of the night, a new development that terrified her, Luna's steady presence and rhythmic purring helped regulate her breathing. Slowly, Kendra rebuilt her life. She returned to work, started therapy, and gradually reconnected with trusted friends. She began a journal where she processed her feelings about the betrayal. Pages recovered during the investigation revealed her struggle. "I thought loyalty was a two-way street. I thought I could spot a liar. Now I question everything. Every smile. Every 'I love you.' Every promise." In one particularly vulnerable therapy session in early 2020, she admitted, "I don't trust people anymore. I don't even trust my own judgment. How can I ever have a relationship again if I can't trust myself to see someone for who they really are?" Then the COVID-19 pandemic hit, forcing further isolation just as she was beginning to re-engage with the world. For Kendra, the lockdown actually brought unexpected peace. Working from home meant no office politics to navigate, no social obligations to refuse. Her small apartment with just Luna for company became a safe haven rather than a lonely space. She volunteered for food distribution efforts organized by local churches, finding purpose in helping others during the crisis. She could maintain distance while still feeling connected to her community. It was during one such event in the fall of 2020 that Kendra first met Mark Grant. Unlike the outgoing, larger-than-life presence of Sean, Mark was steady, calm, and quietly religious. At 32, 4 years older than Kendra, he projected maturity and stability. With short, neatly trimmed hair, wire-rimmed glasses, and a preference for button-down shirts even when volunteering, he looked every bit the banking professional he was. He worked in finance at Third Community Bank and volunteered regularly through Blessed Community Church. Their first interaction was brief. He helped carry boxes of food to her car, but he asked for her number, explaining that the church was always looking for more volunteers. When she hesitated, he quickly added, "Or I can give you the volunteer coordinator's contact information instead." No pressure. That sensitivity to her boundaries made an impression. She gave him her number but made no promises to use it. To her surprise, when he texted the next day, it wasn't to ask her out but to send information about the next food distribution and a link to the church's COVID safety protocols. His respect for her space continued through their early communications. Mark approached their relationship with patience and respect. Understanding her hesitancy, he suggested phone calls before in-person meetings. Their first dates were socially distanced walks in the park, where they talked about everything from childhood memories to favorite books. They attended virtual church services together, texting their thoughts during the sermon. Gradually, Kendra began to lower her carefully constructed walls. He never pushed, Janelle recalled. That's what made him different. He told her once, "I've got all the time in the world for you to feel comfortable." He was rebuilding her faith in people one careful brick at a time. The turning point came during a conversation at Buffalo Bayou Park in February 2021. Sitting 6 feet apart on adjacent benches, Kendra finally told Mark about Sean and Coral's betrayal. She expected judgment or dismissal. Instead, he looked at her with understanding. "Betrayal says more about them than it ever says about you," he told her. "Their choices don't define your worth." Those words unlocked something in Kendra. Her family noticed the change almost immediately. She smiled more, engaged more, seemed lighter somehow. By spring, they were officially dating. By summer, they were inseparable. Mark's steady presence seemed to heal wounds Kendra thought would never close. There were, of course, adjustments to make as their relationship deepened. Mark had grown up in a religious household with traditional values, and he sometimes expressed discomfort with Kendra's more progressive views. She described herself as spiritual but not religious, which created occasional tension around church attendance. And then there was Luna, who treated Mark with typical feline indifference despite his efforts to win her over. "The cat just doesn't like me," he complained good-naturedly to Kendra one evening. "No matter what I do, she pretends I don't exist." "She's protective of me," Kendra replied. "She'll come around. She just needs to learn you're one of the good ones." Despite these minor challenges, their relationship flourished. They developed routines that accommodated both their needs: Sunday mornings at church followed by brunch at Kendra's favorite cafe. Weeknight cooking classes via Zoom. Weekend hikes when weather permitted. Mark became a regular at Drew family gatherings, where Jaden welcomed him with increasing warmth. "My father was skeptical at first," Tiana explained. He'd seen what Sean did to Kendra, how broken she was afterward. But Mark won him over with consistency. He showed up when he said he would. He treated Kendra with respect. He remembered everyone's birthdays. The little things that add up to trustworthiness. In November 2021, Mark proposed at the same park bench where they'd had so many conversations during the pandemic. His words, later recounted to friends, were, "I can't undo your past, but I can promise I'll never make you question your worth. I want to spend my life proving that love can be steady and true. Will you marry me?" The ring was modest but meaningful, a small diamond that had belonged to his grandmother, reset in a modern band. Kendra's tearful "yes" was captured in a selfie they shared with family and close friends. The image showed them beaming, their faces close together, masks pulled down for the moment. It was the first picture in which Kendra looked truly, unreservedly happy since before the betrayal. Their wedding in the spring of 2022 was modest but joyful, a small ceremony at Blessed Community Church with a reception in the same fellowship hall that would later become a crime scene. 50 guests witnessed their exchange of vows, with Tiana serving as maid of honor and Trevor Grant as best man. Kendra wore an elegant sheath dress with minimal decoration, her hair adorned with small white flowers. Mark couldn't take his eyes off her as she walked down the aisle on her father's arm. Kendra's vows spoke of finding faith again through Mark's love. When I had given up on trust, you showed me patience. When I was afraid to hope, you gave me reason to believe again. I promise to remember this feeling, this certainty, even on our hardest days. Mark's response brought tears to many eyes. I vow to be the constant in your life. The person who never makes you doubt. The heart that beats in rhythm with yours. The arms that will always be your safest place. Guests later recalled how radiantly happy Kendra looked, how the couple seemed to exist in their own world of mutual adoration. They honeymooned at a small beach house on the Gulf Coast, sharing photos of sunsets and seafood dinners, looking relaxed and content. Upon returning, they moved into Mark's two-bedroom apartment, which he had owned for several years. The second bedroom became Kendra's home office, where Luna immediately claimed the sunniest spot on the desk. Kendra continued her marketing work while Mark received a promotion at the bank, requiring longer hours but bringing a welcome increase in income. They began saving for a house, hoping to buy within the next 2 years. When Kendra discovered she was pregnant in late summer 2022, it came as a surprise. They had planned to wait a few years, to build a strong foundation before having children. But the initial shock quickly gave way to excitement. Mark threw himself into preparations, researching the best cribs, starting a college fund, reading parenting books. Kendra bloomed in pregnancy, telling friends that carrying a child felt like the ultimate new beginning. Being pregnant changed everything, she wrote in her journal. It's like my body is telling me to trust again. To hope again. To build something new that has nothing to do with past hurts. Their relationship seemed perfect from the outside, a testament to healing and second chances. Which made the events of May 12, 2023 all the more shocking to everyone who knew them. The first hint of trouble emerged in December 2022, during what should have been a casual dinner conversation. Kendra, then 4 months pregnant, brought up the possibility of naming their child Luna if they had a girl. Luna has been with me through everything, she explained to Mark over a homemade pasta dinner at their dining table. Through my darkest days when I was alone, when I didn't think I would make it. That name represents survival to me. She reached down to stroke the cat, who was weaving between her ankles hoping for a dropped morsel. Plus, it's just a beautiful name. Luna drew. It has a ring to it, don't you think? What Kendra saw as a meaningful tribute, Mark perceived very differently. His immediate response was sharp and uncharacteristic. He set down his fork with deliberate control, his expression darkening. You want to name our child after a cat your ex gave you? He asked incredulously. A constant reminder of him and what happened? Absolutely not. Kendra was taken aback by his vehemence. It's not about Sean, she countered. It hasn't been about him for years. Luna is mine. She helped me heal. Luna is a cat that he gave you when you were heartbroken over him, Mark said, his voice rising slightly. Every time we'd say our daughter's name, that would be the connection. Our child deserves her own identity, not one tied to your past with another man. The argument that followed escalated quickly in their living room, after dishes had been cleared and put away. Voices raised, Mark pacing while Kendra sat rigid on the sofa. It was their first serious fight, and neither was prepared for the intensity. I'm putting my foot down, Mark had declared, standing over her. Don't bring that name up again. Not for our child. Kendra, stunned by his vehemence, retreated into silence that night. But the next day, she confided in Janelle during their weekly lunch. It's not defiance, Kendra said, picking at her salad. It's healing. The name isn't about Sean anymore. It's about survival. It's about the one good thing that came from that awful time. Why can't he see that? Maybe because men don't always understand emotional connections the way we do, Janelle suggested. Have you told him exactly what Luna means to you? Not the cat, but the name itself? I tried, Kendra sighed. But he shut down. He's never been like that before. It was like talking to a different person. Meanwhile, Mark expressed his frustration to his brother Trevor during their Saturday morning run. I can't stand the thought of people thinking we named our kid after her ex's cat, he said as they jogged around the park. Every time I'd say my daughter's name, I'd be thinking about him. About them. It's disrespectful to what we're building. Have you told her that? Trevor asked between breaths. Of course I have, Mark replied. But she doesn't get it. She says it's not about him anymore. But how can it not be? The dispute created the first serious friction in their marriage. For weeks, they navigated around the subject, neither willing to concede. The tension manifested in small ways, fewer casual touches, conversations that stayed on safe topics, early nights where one or the other claimed fatigue and went to bed. Text messages between Kendra and Janelle showed the ongoing tension. We argued about the name again, Kendra wrote in December. He said never to mention it. I think he'll come around when the baby is born. He'll see it differently then. Just be careful, Janelle responded. Maybe consider some alternatives just in case. Men can be weird about these things. It's important to me, Kendra insisted. I've compromised on so much. This matters. Mark's messages to Trevor showed a different perspective. If she names this kid after that cat, I'll lose it, he wrote that same week. I've never put my foot down about anything else. This is my line in the sand. Maybe you should suggest some alternatives, Trevor advised. Give her options rather than just saying no. I've tried, Mark replied. She doesn't want to discuss other names. It's Luna or nothing, apparently. As investigators dug deeper, they learned about Mark's background, growing up with a mother known in their community for explosive anger followed by periods of cold silence. Interviews with childhood friends revealed that Marlene had been a formidable presence in the household, capable of transforming from warm and engaging to terrifyingly furious in an instant. You never knew what would trigger her, one childhood friend of Mark's told investigators. One day she'd be making cookies and singing, the next she'd be throwing plates because someone forgot to take out the trash. Mark's father, Joseph, a quiet deacon at their church, had handled his wife's outbursts by retreating into silence. Rather than confronting the behavior, he would leave the house or seclude himself in his workshop until the storm passed. Young Mark had learned to navigate this volatile environment by becoming extraordinarily attuned to emotional cues and avoiding confrontation at all costs. He had learned early to suppress his emotions rather than express them. This coping mechanism served him well professionally. Colleagues at the bank described him as unflappable during crises. When the computer system crashed before a major audit, when clients became irate about account issues, when the pandemic created financial panic, Mark remained steady and solution-oriented. Church members noted his calm demeanor even during heated committee discussions. This reputation for steadiness made the violent outburst at the bridal shower all the more shocking to those who knew him. What no one outside the marriage realized was how the name dispute had continued to fester. While the couple presented a united front to the world, privately their disagreement deepened. Kendra began researching the name's origin and significance, building a case for why it was perfect. Mark responded by suggesting dozens of alternatives, none of which satisfied Kendra. By March 2023, they had reached a stalemate. Kendra believed that once the baby arrived, Mark would be so overcome with love that the name's origin would become irrelevant. Mark believed that Kendra would eventually recognize the inappropriateness of the name and come to her senses. Their doctor's appointment in late March revealed they were having a girl. The sonogram image showed a clear profile, tiny nose, rounded forehead, hand raised as if waving. Kendra wept at the sight. Mark squeezed her hand, his own eyes moist. For a moment, the name dispute receded in importance. They were going to have a daughter. But that evening, as they discussed nursery colors and baby clothes, the subject inevitably arose again. Now that we know she's a girl, we should decide on her name, Kendra ventured carefully. Mark's expression hardened. We've been through this. Not Luna. But. I said no, Kendra. I don't want to argue about it anymore. By April 2023, the couple had reached an uneasy détente on the name issue. To all outward appearances, they had moved past it. They focused instead on planning a combined bridal shower and baby celebration. Due to COVID restrictions during their wedding, Kendra had never had a proper bridal shower. This event would serve dual purposes, celebrating both their marriage and impending parenthood. Friends and family were excited. Invitations went out, featuring pink and white decorations. The theme combined traditional bridal elements with subtle baby shower touches. Janelle took the lead in organizing, coordinating with Michelle Drew on details. The fellowship hall at Blessed Community Church was reserved, the same space where Kendra and Mark had held their wedding reception a year earlier. Behind this facade of joyful anticipation, however, the name dispute continued to simmer. Neither had conceded, merely agreed to temporarily set aside the disagreement. Kendra believed Mark would eventually understand her perspective. She told Janelle, when he holds our daughter, none of this will matter anymore. Mark, meanwhile, believed the matter was settled, that Kendra had accepted his decision and moved on. What neither realized was how deeply the dispute had affected them both. For Kendra, the name represented her survival and resilience. For Mark, it symbolized an intrusion of Kendra's past into their future. Both felt misunderstood by the other, creating a fracture in their once solid foundation. The morning of May 12 started like any other Saturday. Neighbors reported seeing Mark carrying decorations to the car, Kendra directing from the porch, her pregnancy now visible in her careful movements. They appeared to be a normal couple preparing for a celebration. No one could have predicted the violence that would erupt hours later. The fellowship hall of Blessed Community Church was transformed for the occasion. Pink and white streamers hung from the ceiling. Tables draped in white cloths held finger foods, punch, and a two-tier cake decorated with both wedding and baby motifs. A special chair adorned with ribbons and flowers waited for the guest of honor. Guests began arriving around 2 in the afternoon. Kendra, radiant in a white maternity dress specially made for the occasion, greeted each person with hugs and excited chatter about the baby. Mark stood beside her, one hand often resting protectively on her lower back, smiling and accepting congratulations. Photographs from the event, later collected as evidence, showed a seemingly happy couple. Kendra glowed with the special radiance of late pregnancy. Mark looked proud and attentive. No one observed any tension between them as they mingled with guests, accepted gifts, and participated in traditional shower games. The celebration proceeded according to plan. There were games typical of both bridal and baby showers. Guests created wedding dresses from toilet paper, guessed the size of Kendra's belly with string, offered advice for the newlyweds and soon-to-be parents. Kendra opened gifts, exclaiming over tiny clothes and practical household items alike. Around 3 o'clock, Kendra's father Jaden rose to give a toast. His words, later recalled by several guests, were touching. 2 years ago, I wasn't sure I'd ever see my daughter smile again. Today, I see not just smiles but true joy. Mark, you helped heal my daughter's heart. Now you two are creating a new life together. I couldn't be prouder. Champagne for the guests, sparkling cider for Kendra, everyone raised their glasses in celebration. The mood in the room was one of pure happiness. Then came the gender reveal moment. Kendra and Mark stood together as they popped a large black balloon. Pink confetti exploded outward, confirming they were having a girl. Cheers erupted. Guests hugged and congratulated the couple. Caught up in the excitement of the moment, Kendra made an announcement that would change everything. We're going to name her Luna, she said, her voice carrying across the suddenly quieting room. Like the moon that lights up even the darkest night. My little Luna helped me through my darkest times, and now this Luna will be our light going forward. As she spoke, her hand moved instinctively to stroke her belly, much as she often petted the cat who shared the name. The gesture wasn't lost on Mark, whose face underwent a subtle but profound transformation. Guests, unaware of the name's disputed history, responded with enthusiasm. "What a beautiful name," someone called out. "Perfect for a little girl," added another. But beside Kendra, Mark had gone rigid. Witnesses would later describe how his face changed, how the smile remained fixed while his eyes hardened, how his shoulders tensed under his dress shirt. He leaned close to Kendra's ear. "I told you never again," he whispered, audible only to her and the person standing nearest them. "Why would you do this?" Kendra's smile faltered. She whispered back, "It's just a name. They don't know what it means to us." "Not here," Mark hissed. "Especially not here. You humiliate me in front of everyone." Kendra reached for his hand, but he pulled away. "Mark, please." "No, you crossed the line," he said, voice still low but trembling with anger. "I'm done talking." He turned and walked quickly toward the kitchen area at the back of the fellowship hall. His cousin Devon, noticing his agitation, followed him. "Mark, don't do this," Devon was heard saying. "Come back, man. Just breathe." The sound of utensils clattering echoed from the kitchen. When Mark emerged moments later, a large kitchen knife was clutched in his right hand. Guests didn't immediately register the danger. Some thought it was for cutting the cake. But Devon's face told a different story as he lunged to intercept his cousin. "Mark, no," he shouted. Kendra saw the knife and went pale. "Please don't," she whispered, both hands moving protectively to her stomach. What happened next occurred in seconds but would be replayed in nightmares for years to come. Mark lunged forward with surprising speed. The knife caught the light as it arced through the air. Then came Kendra's scream, cut short as the blade plunged into her abdomen. He stabbed her 3 times before anyone could react. 4 men, including Devon and Kendra's father, tackled Mark to the ground. The knife clattered across the hardwood floor, leaving a trail of blood. Women rushed to Kendra's side, easing her to the floor as she collapsed, applying pressure to her wounds with napkins and tablecloths. Janelle's frantic 911 call captured the chaos. "He stabbed her. Oh my God, he stabbed her. Please hurry. She's pregnant." As Kendra's consciousness faded, friends begged her to stay awake. "Think about Luna," someone said. "Stay with us for Luna." Whether they meant the cat or the baby, no one would later be able to say for certain. Sirens wailed in the distance as paramedics raced to the scene. Despite their best efforts, both at the scene and later at Memorial Hermann Hospital, doctors could not save either Kendra or her unborn daughter. Mother and child were pronounced dead at 4:13 p.m., less than an hour after the attack. The investigation moved quickly from that point. With dozens of witnesses and the weapon recovered at the scene, the physical evidence was unambiguous. Mark Grant had murdered his pregnant wife in full view of friends and family over a dispute about their unborn daughter's name. When Detective Bryant questioned him later that evening, Mark appeared oddly detached. "She didn't listen," he said repeatedly. "I told her never to bring it up again." "So you decided to kill her?" Bryant asked, his voice steady despite his disgust. "Over a name?" Mark looked up, his expression confused, as if the detective was missing something obvious. "She humiliated me. In front of everyone. She knew how I felt." "Did you go to the kitchen specifically to get the knife?" "I needed to make it stop," Mark replied. "The disrespect. The way she ignored what I wanted. She always put that cat first. And now she was going to do the same with our daughter." The interrogation continued for hours, but Mark's account remained consistent. He had not planned the attack in advance. He had simply reached a breaking point when Kendra publicly announced the name he had explicitly forbidden. The premeditation came not in planning the murder itself, but in his immediate decision to retrieve a weapon when his anger overtook him. The prosecution's case came together swiftly under Avery Collins, a veteran assistant district attorney known for handling high-profile domestic violence cases. Digital evidence, text messages between Kendra and Janelle, Mark and Trevor, established the ongoing dispute about the name. Witness statements confirmed that the attack was triggered by Kendra's announcement. The autopsy revealed that the stab wounds were delivered with significant force, directly targeting the area where the baby was positioned. This wasn't just rage directed at his wife, Collins told the grand jury. The location and angle of these wounds show that he was trying to destroy the child that would have carried the name he so vehemently opposed. This was about control, not just anger. Mark's defense team, led by attorney Leonard Hunter, attempted to argue for a crime of passion, suggesting that he had snapped under emotional duress and had not premeditated the attack. They pointed to his spotless prior record, his reputation in the community, his consistent support of Kendra through pregnancy. Mr. Mark suffered an acute stress reaction, Hunter argued in preliminary hearings. He had been clear about his boundaries regarding this name. When those boundaries were publicly violated, he experienced a temporary break from reality. But prosecution evidence painted a different picture. The deliberate retrieval of the knife. The direct targeting of Kendra's pregnant belly. The calm demeanor noted by arresting officers. Most damning was a text Mark had sent his brother just 2 days before the shower: "If she brings up that name one more time, especially in public, I don't know what I'll do." That's not a threat, Hunter countered when the text was presented. That's an expression of frustration. Everyone says things like that. Most people don't follow through with a knife, Collins responded. The trial began in August, 3 months after the murder. The courthouse steps were lined with reporters each morning, the case having captured public attention due to its shocking nature. Inside, the gallery was divided, Kendra's family on one side, Mark's on the other, neither group making eye contact with the other. The prosecution presented a methodical case, beginning with first responders who described the scene, followed by witnesses who recounted the events leading up to the stabbing. Photos of the fellowship hall, the discarded knife, Kendra's blood-stained dress, and the undelivered baby gifts were displayed for the jury. Several jurors visibly flinched when presented with the crime scene images. The defense strategy hinged on portraying Mark as a man who had suffered a momentary break from his normally exemplary character. Character witnesses described him as calm, reliable, and devoted to his church community. "I've known Mark since he was 12, Pastor Seth Green testified. I've never seen him raise his voice, let alone his hand, to anyone. This behavior is completely out of character for the man I know." Prosecutor Collins asked one question that resonated with the jury: "If he was calm under pressure as you describe, what explains the knife in his hand?" The pastor had no answer. During the trial, Dr. Denise Ross, a psychologist specializing in intimate partner violence, testified about triggers for deadly violence in relationships. "What we often see in cases like this is a perpetrator who has hidden their controlling nature behind a facade of calm support," she explained. The need for control may not manifest in obvious ways until the relationship faces a significant challenge to the perpetrator's authority, in this case, a public contradiction of what Mr. Mark saw as his decision to make. But isn't it normal for couples to disagree about baby names? Hunter asked during cross-examination. "Disagreement is normal," Dr. Ross replied. "Resolving that disagreement with lethal violence is not. That indicates an underlying pattern of control that may have been subtle but was nonetheless present." The most emotional testimony came from Tiana Drew, who described finding Luna the cat waiting by the apartment door when she went to collect Kendra's belongings days after the murder. "She kept meowing and looking for Kendra," Tiana said, her voice breaking. "She'd sit by the door for hours. She didn't understand that Kendra wasn't coming home." Mark himself took the stand against his attorney's advice. Under direct examination, he expressed remorse for his actions but continued to frame the dispute in terms of disrespect rather than the tragedy of his response. "I loved Kendra," he insisted. "I never wanted to hurt her. But she knew how strongly I felt about that name. She knew what it represented, her past with another man. Our daughter deserved better than to be named after a reminder of her mother's ex-boyfriend." During cross-examination, Collins was relentless. "Mr. Mark, you've emphasized how much you loved your wife. Yet when faced with a disagreement over a name, just a name, you chose to end her life and the life of your unborn child. Is that your definition of love?" "I didn't choose," Mark replied, his composure finally cracking. "I just reacted." "You reacted by walking to the kitchen, selecting a knife, returning to where your wife stood, and stabbing her repeatedly," Collins countered. "Each of those steps was a choice, wasn't it?" Mark had no response. After 4 days of testimony, the jury deliberated for just 6 hours before returning a guilty verdict on charges of first-degree murder and fetal homicide. When Judge Robert Phillips delivered the sentence, life imprisonment without possibility of parole, Mark showed no visible reaction. "This was not only the taking of a young woman's life," Judge Phillips stated, "but also the life of a child yet to be born. 2 generations destroyed in an act of rage that can never be justified." "Mr. Mark, you had countless opportunities to address this disagreement through communication, compromise, or even separation if necessary. Instead, you chose the most permanent, destructive solution possible. For that, you will spend the rest of your life in prison." For Kendra's family, the verdict brought a measure of justice but no real comfort. Michelle Drew collapsed when the sentence was read, while Jaden sat stone-faced, one arm around his wife, the other around his remaining daughter Tiana. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked Jaden for a statement. His response was brief but powerful: "My daughter trusted him to love her. Instead, he destroyed her over something that could have been resolved with patience and understanding. No prison sentence can repair what he's taken from our family." In the aftermath, Luna the cat went to live with Tiana, who declined all interview requests with a simple statement: she just wants peace. Luna is the last connection to Kendra she has at home. Reports emerged about Mark's difficult adjustment to prison life. According to sources within the correctional system, he was isolated and occasionally assaulted by other inmates aware of his crime. His family made few visits. His church community, though expressing continued prayers for his soul, did not organize any support efforts. "There's a particular disgust reserved for men who kill pregnant women," a prison counselor explained to reporters. "Even among criminals, that crosses a line most won't touch." Attempts to establish a foundation in Kendra's name faltered due to disagreements among family members about how to honor her memory. Michelle wanted something focused on maternal health, while Jaden favored domestic violence prevention. Without consensus, the project stalled. The bridal shower decorations, blood-stained and collected as evidence, were eventually destroyed after the trial concluded. The fellowship hall at Blessed Community Church remained unused for months afterward, until a complete renovation removed all physical reminders of the tragedy. A year after the murder, on what would have been Luna's first birthday, Tiana Drew posted a single photo on social media, the Siamese cat sitting beside a small potted moonflower plant in bloom. The caption read simply, "For the Lunas we loved and lost. Some lights can never be extinguished." The post received thousands of sympathetic comments and shares, bringing renewed attention to Kendra's story. Several domestic violence organizations used the anniversary to highlight warning signs of controlling behavior in relationships. Psychologists referenced the case in discussions about how seemingly minor disagreements can reveal deeper issues of control and respect. What remains most disturbing about Kendra and Mark's story is how something as simple as a name became the trigger for such violence. The question lingers: was this tragedy preventable? Some might argue that Kendra should have respected Mark's feelings about the name. Others might counter that Mark's reaction revealed a dangerous possessiveness that would have eventually found another trigger. The central truth remains that nothing, no disagreement, no matter how deeply felt, justifies violence. What we witness in this case is how pride and anger can destroy love, family, and future in moments that can never be taken back. Janelle, speaking at a domestic violence awareness event 18 months after the murder, offered perhaps the most insightful perspective. We tend to think controlling behavior always looks obvious: isolation, constant criticism, physical intimidation. But sometimes it hides behind a facade of calm reasonableness. Mark didn't control what Kendra wore or who she spoke to. He supported her career and her friendships. But when it came to something that really mattered to her, something connected to her identity and healing, his mask slipped. The need for control was always there, just waiting for the right trigger. Kendra Drew's warmth, loyalty, and hope for new beginnings were silenced by the man she had trusted to heal her broken heart. Her story forces us to consider uncomfortable questions about our own relationships. How do we handle resentment before it becomes dangerous? Where is the line between compromise and control? What warning signs might we be missing in those closest to us? Relationships require compromise, but they also require respect for each other's deepest values and needs. The name Luna represented healing and survival to Kendra. The same name represented past pain and disrespect to Mark. Neither perspective was inherently wrong, but the failure to find a middle ground, and Mark's violent response to that failure, cost 2 lives. Luna the cat, now aging gracefully in Tiana's care, remains the silent witness to both betrayal and tragedy. She cannot tell us what she observed in the quiet moments between Kendra and Mark, what subtle shifts in tone or expression might have foretold the explosion to come. But perhaps her very existence serves as a reminder that healing often comes from unexpected sources, and that the things that hurt us can sometimes become the things that save us, if we let them. For those experiencing control and manipulation in their own relationships, Kendra's story stands as both warning and call to action. The signs may be subtle, the progression gradual, but the potential consequences are devastating. If Kendra's story moved you, don't let it stop here. Subscribe to this channel so we can keep bringing you investigations that go beyond headlines. Leave a comment to honor Kendra's memory, and let your voice be part of the conversation that may protect someone else. Share this video because the truth is simple. Stories like this aren't just tragedies. They are warnings. And sometimes the conversation you start could be the one that saves a life.